I'm gonna give you the cheat code to get hypertrophic as and we're gonna start right now. So we all have a weak point genetically, or even just from our actual limb length based off of training. It could be our pecs, it could be our triceps, or it could be your quads. Everyone has some sense of weakness, okay? So it could be your triceps, like I mentioned, it could be your pecs, it could be your quads, it could be your hamstrings, whatever that might be, your lower back. When we're thinking about being as hypertrophic as possible, we've got to look at some old school bodybuilding principles, okay? So bodybuilders will typically say there's 5 to 10 key mass movements, okay? So if we have a mass movement like a bench press or a back squat or a front squat, a leg press, a deadlift, anything like that, a movement that stimulates a ton of mass, right? Those are gonna be those key foundational exercises. But because we all have our own genetic predisposition, we might not feel or get fatigued in certain areas based off those mass movements. So for example, my triceps are extremely strong. When I do a bench press, however, my triceps never get stimulated. My chest always gets sore, but my triceps never get sore. So the bench press might not be the best exercise for my tricep growth, but it might be for my chest growth. If I have another individual who does, say, chin-ups, their biceps might get destroyed by chin-ups, but they don't feel that in their lats. Whereas someone else might actually get destroyed in their lats by doing chin-ups, but they never feel it in their biceps. And so I'm gonna give you 4 different examples of how you can actually stimulate a ton of growth with those mass movements by using this specific cheat code to get more hypertrophic. So in comes the pre-exhaust principle, and I'm gonna give you pairings that you can use to really stimulate a ton of growth. So use myself as an example. If I'm an individual who has extremely strong triceps, I wanna fatigue my triceps before I get on that compound movement. So I'm gonna use an isolation exercise for about 10 to 17 reps to pre-exhaust that strong muscle group. And then when I get onto that compound movement, I'm gonna be more stimulated, I'm gonna get more volume, and that's gonna lead to greater growth. So for an example, if I'm somebody here and I have, let's say my pecs are extremely strong, I would hit flies, standing banded flies with our POWERLASTIC. You can click on the link down below in our description. And I might do 17 flies right in a row to really fatigue and exhaust my pecs. So I'm trying to get a ton of growth out of my pecs and out of my triceps. So now my pecs are fatigued from doing those flies, the isolation exercise. That's gonna pre-exhaust me when I go onto the bench press. We're using this compound movement to get that mass to grow. Okay, so now I get on here and my triceps have to work a little bit harder to actually overcome this massive weight. Now, using my own body as an example, I never get tricep fatigue from a bench press. So what I wanna do here, and this is stolen right from Dave Draper, right from Bill Pearl, is I'm gonna do an isolation exercise like a tricep push down. And I'm gonna do 17 to 20 reps here. And I want to stimulate my triceps with that compound movement. So again, I wanna exhaust my strong muscle group here. And then my strong muscle group, the triceps, fatigues at the exact same time as my chest. One more. So that's a good example of using the pre-exhaust program with a compound movement, the bench press, and an isolation exercise like the chest flies or like that lean away tricep extension. So if we're trying to train another mass movement, a big time mass movement is going to be curl ups or pull ups, okay? So if we're doing curl ups or chin ups, as most people call them, we always call them curl ups. If I have really, really strong biceps, I struggle to stimulate my lat strength when I'm doing those curl ups, when I'm doing the chin ups, okay? So what I wanna do is fatigue my biceps so that my lats have to work a little bit harder when I'm doing the chin ups. So what I would do then is say 17 reps of bicep curls. So we're fatiguing our biceps with those 17 reps on the preacher curl. Now my biceps are lit up and I have to use my lats a little bit more. Good. Now, if my lats are extremely strong, I want to do the pre-exhaust, doing a lat pull down and trying to really stimulate those lats to get fatigued. And what this is going to do then is when we get back to doing those chin-ups, now my lats can't work as well when I'm doing those chin-ups and my biceps have to take over. So if my lats are really strong and my biceps aren't growing, because I'm fatiguing my lats, it's gonna help my biceps get a little bit more high threshold motor unit recruitment, while also maintaining that strength in my lats. So my lats are just destroyed, and now I have to focus on more bicep muscular action, which is in turn going to make my biceps stronger. Oh, geez. I'm gonna give you a really unique pairing now with that mass movement. The mass movement is going to be a back squat, but that back squat is gonna be executed specific to whatever that problem area is. So for me personally, I struggle to feel my quads when I'm doing a back squat. So I'm actually gonna do leg curls first because I wanna fatigue the strength that I have in my hamstrings. If you're somebody who struggles with actual hamstring work when you're doing a high bar back squat, you should fatigue your quads first. So you're gonna fatigue your quads, and then you're gonna go, after you fatigue your quads for 17 reps, and then you're gonna go over and hit that low bar back squat. So my quads are fatigued. I wanna do a posterior chain movement that's really gonna light up my hamstrings, okay? So my hamstrings might be dead, right? Like, not for me personally, but for a lot of individuals that have shorter limbs, their hamstrings don't work really well. So if we're trying to get hypertrophic as we need to target them very, very well. So if we can do those leg extensions, fatigue our quads, now when we get in and we execute this low bar back squat here, my quads are essentially gone, right? The quads aren't working. My body has to recruit more from my hamstrings to execute this nice low bar back squat. Boom. So if I'm hamstring dominant, which I am, I wanna fatigue my hamstrings through the isolation movement of a leg curl. Okay, so again, I wanna get 17 reps, fatigue those hammies, and then when I get to the front and I start to back squat, I'm gonna do a high bar back squat to really try and stimulate growth in my quads. So I just finished up those leg curls for 17 reps. I tend to have really strong hamstrings. So what I do is I lean forward and I essentially create a good morning back squat when I'm doing a high bar back squat, okay? Now, here's the kicker. The pre-exhaust is that my hamstrings are really fatigued. So I wanna light up my quads even more, and my body knows my hamstrings are fatigued. So when I do a high bar back squat now, I wanna really focus on stimulating growth from my quads. So ideally, because my hamstrings are fatigued, my body is gonna shift to better movement patterns. It's gonna help me load those quads a little bit more. I wanna feel my knees tracking forward and keeping that chest upright to really load the quads. One more, because I wanna grow my quads because they've always been small my entire life. Boo! If your brain's weak, make sure that you like and you subscribe. If you need help with getting more hypertrophic, comment down below with whatever muscle group you have that's lagging, and we'll put out a video to help you get more swole. Now, if I'm doing a shoulder press, okay, and my shoulders are extremely weak, that means it's highly likely that my triceps are taking over during that strict press. So what I wanna do is try to fatigue the hell out of my triceps. I'm gonna do a ghost face kickback for a set of 15 to 30 reps and just get a nice pump going. I wanna fatigue my triceps. So I'm here, I'm getting a nice pump rolling, and then I'm gonna walk over with the pre-exhaust and I'm gonna hit these shoulder presses. So now my triceps are fatigued, and likely what's gonna happen is my shoulders are gonna take over, and because my triceps are already stronger, my shoulders and my triceps should fatigue at about the same moment, which means that I'm gonna have greater motor unit recruitment from my shoulders, my delts, and a little bit of my rhomboids. Boom. And that's gonna help from using the pre-exhaust principle. So if my triceps are the limiting factor on the press, what I wanna do then is to actually stimulate my shoulders and fatigue my shoulders, okay? So I'm gonna do a side lateral raise for 17 reps. This is gonna fatigue the hell out of my delts, my traps, my rhomboids, and then it's gonna force my triceps to be more active when I'm doing that strict press. So now my shoulders are blasted, and my triceps have to take over more of the stress that they're otherwise protected from by my stronger shoulders. My triceps. So remember, the key here is that we're using a mass movement to stimulate overall hypertrophy, okay? So if we're using a back squat, a deadlift, a strict press, a bench press, a pull-up, that's the mass movement. Now, if we're strong in a specific area, we wanna fatigue that strength to then highlight with the compound movement. We're gonna highlight that weak area that now, because we have a greater load on something like the bench press or the back squat, that weak area starts to grow and get stimulated. We recruit more high threshold motor units, and ideally we lead to greater hypertrophy in that weak point. Now, the point where we have to be careful is that we can't do the pre-exhaust period for a long time frame, okay? Because we're getting extra volume in our stronger areas. If my shoulders are extremely strong and I'm doing side lateral raises, and then I'm gonna go in and hit those presses, yes, my triceps will get targeted very, very well, but if I do that for 4, 5, or 6 weeks, what ends up happening is my shoulders start to get extremely swole and my triceps lag because they don't have as much volume. So we have to toe a fine line. About 2 to 4 weeks is where we're gonna be using that pre-exhaust period during the comprehension phase of programming, and then we'll back off of that and start to play around with other techniques and other cheat codes that will lead to greater hypertrophy. And if you want more information to dive deeper into the weeds of training, make sure you subscribe to our Peak Strength YouTube channel. It's a brand new channel where we go deep into all of our methods around strength training. And if you want a program, click on the link down below, get our Mass Builder program today so that you can get more swole. Because remember, if you want to become a freak, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.